This is the Connecticut Water Guy Hour. And now here's your host, Paul, your Connecticut Water Guy.
Hello and welcome to the Connecticut Water Guy Show. We are going to kick this one off with a really hot subject here today, but you're probably wondering who the heck this is on the radio. This is Paul with Connecticut Advanced Water Systems in Highland Springs, Virginia. We specialize in whole house filtration, purification, and water treatment, as well as drinking water systems. And we have decided to go ahead and get out on the air regularly. And we've got Ethan over here in the studio helping me out here today.
Absolutely.
But our team, a little bit before we jump right on into this, for those of you that are first tuning in, we have had this office over in Highland Springs since 2016, actually. But we've actually been up in the Richmond area since 2014. So we're going on almost 9 years now since we first started. And our Office of Advanced Water Systems is part of a group. We are part of a group that is a dealer of the Connecticut water treatment products, which have been around since 1970, made in the USA, and most of them use absolutely no electricity or batteries, which makes them truly unique. So the best stuff that's out there, and most people have never heard of it because we spent a lot of time and money on products, not fancy marketing. But that's why we're here today. You can reach us at 9:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday over at the office at 877-60-WATER, or you can visit us on the web at connecticutrichmond.com, and that's hard to spell, but Connecticut, like kinetic energy with an O on the end, and richmond.com. And you can visit us on our YouTube channel and pick up some cool videos at your leisure at Connecticut Richmond. Just go do a search for that. And if you've missed some past episodes of the Water Guy Show here, we're actually releasing those on podcast. I believe we're live this week. And if you search for The Water Guy, you should be able to find it.
That's exciting.
Yeah, way cool. Way cool. So this week, it's kind of funny because I believe this is our 7th episode.
Something like that.
7th or 8th. I should have kept track better.
The weeks have been blurring together. It's okay.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, we just finished doing just telling you about the event we just finished, and I'm still recovering from the rugged maniac down there in Dinwiddie.
Yeah.
Can't wait to do that one again. It was fun. But it kind of goes hand in hand with what we're about to jump in here today. A lot of folks have probably never heard of something called PFAS, and that's PFAS or PFOS. They're related, but it's a contaminant out there in the world. Unfortunately, in the entire world, and this is a chemical that There's been a lot of documentaries and things on it throughout the years that most folks have never probably seen. Trying to think off the top of my head, one of them was The Devil We Know. That's one that was on Netflix years back. So if this piques your interest and you want to kind of see how this really got started, that's a really good one to check out. There's other ones, but that one was probably one of the best ones that I've seen to kind of get everybody up to speed on the history behind how this stuff became such a problem. It was manufactured back in the 1940s.
Oh wow! So it's been here for a while then.
Yes. So this is a chemical that's been around us. And unfortunately, it's been around us in almost all aspects of our lives, and we didn't even realize it for over 70 years. And there hasn't been really a lot of significant long-term research on the health impact. So they're digging into this pretty heavily now. And since I'm in, obviously, the business, I hear about what's cutting edge, and we've been hearing about PFAS for the last 6 years, really. Our office is down in North Carolina. They have been really dealing with a lot of PFAS contamination. Most of the contamination really comes from putting it inside your body, drinking it, eating it, things like that. And water is actually one of the biggest contributors down there. So PFAS. Let's just kind of back up a second.
Dive into it a little bit.
Dive in, yes.
Yeah.
So PFAS, and the full long name is per or polyfluoroalkyl substances. They are a group of widely used man-made chemicals that are all around us. They're sometimes called forever chemicals because they don't break down, really. Yeah, they're going to be here way, way, way after we are gone. But unfortunately, they never break down, and they accumulate in both the environment and our human body.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's studies, like I said, that really haven't. It's hard to dial down 100%, but cancer is one of the things that they have definitely linked to PFAS.
Unfortunately, that makes sense.
Yeah, and anybody, I hate cancer. I really do.
Absolutely.
It's impacted. I'm sure everybody that's listening knows somebody that's been impacted, but half of my family on separate occasions have been impacted by that, so I especially can't stand cancer. But anything that we can do to try to prevent that, I'm sure we would. And the PFAS, think of it like a family of chemicals. And there's around 5,000 members of this chemical family. And like I said, they've been produced since the 1940s. But the health and the environmental risks only gained widespread attention after the chemicals were found in drinking water back in 2001. But nearly everybody's come in contact with these forever chemicals through water, food, or consumer products. So the two most common and controversial PFAS are no longer made in the United States. Now,
okay.
Does that mean that we don't have to worry about them anymore? Absolutely not.
Right.
It just means the United States is not making them. There are plenty of areas overseas that are still manufacturing this stuff.
So we got plenty of stuff coming in.
Absolutely, yeah. Not everybody has the same stringent EPA type restrictions like the U.S. does.
Yeah.
And this is one of those cases where you wish that everybody did have that kind of regulation. But basically, products that are still containing these original PFAS are still being imported. So it's scary.
Yeah.
There was I'm getting to some of the information. There's some pretty good websites out there in case you wanted to do any fact checking. Consumernotice.org is a good one. They kind of recap everything all in one site. So they've taken information from other places and kind of compiled it. So it's kind of a good summary if you wanted to check that out. But pretty much that's where a lot of these things are posted. They talk about different health risks that go along with them. We said cancer already. That's the big scary one. But they can interfere with natural hormones. They can interfere with the immune system. They can interfere with. They can cause pregnancy-induced hypertension, kidney cancer. There can be a reduced chance of pregnancy due to these. Testicular cancer, thyroid disease, ulcerative colitis. Just some bad stuff.
This stuff is nasty.
Yeah, terrifying. So, as anybody that's listened to a few episodes know, I like to kind of go off script and tell stories. This is one of the previous episodes that we talked about was landfills. So, just this week, as a matter of fact, I got called out to a customer to help with their water, and we'd actually had one of our technicians go out there to kind of look at an existing water treatment system that they had, and the system wasn't performing. So we were, at first it started out, it was looking like maybe just a simple replacement because this thing was over 20 years old. It had a good run, but the customer was he's hopefully cancer-free now, but he just had some major surgery where they removed or rerouted a large portion of insides, which was just horrible. So he was definitely impacted by that. Great attitude, and we just started talking, and I realized after we were talking, he said, "Yeah, there's a landfill close to here," and I'm like, "Well, how far away is it?" Thinking 5-10 miles. He's like, "No, about 3/4 of a mile." And
that's very close.
Very close.
Wow.
He said, "I am absolutely convinced that my cancer in some way was related to that landfill."
Yeah.
Because it was an old landfill. And we talked about at a previous show how up until 1993, there weren't any restrictions or regulations in place, or real strict ones, that made them put a liner down underneath a landfill. So this old landfill basically got capped. They just threw some dirt over it. But that didn't stop all of the stuff that was in there decomposing, and who knows, you're talking old paint cans and pesticides and who knows what we called it, landfill juice in the other episode.
Yep.
But that, 3/4 of a mile is not that far.
Yeah.
I just had to run 3.5 miles and do obstacles, and we were done in a little over about an hour and 15 minutes. So if we can cover that kind of ground, that given decades underground, that some nasty juice is gonna find its way into a lot of homes if it hasn't already.
Right.
So so by the time we got done, we realized that he needed far more than just a replacement filter tank, like he'd gotten 20 some years ago. So we're in the process of putting in some carbon filtration, some pH correction, and a softener, and we're going to be able to treat the whole house for VOCs and a lot of the nasty stuff that may come out of the well. But we're also adding on drinking water systems with reverse osmosis for that one, because especially when you're trying to recover, you want the best of the best for your water, your drinking water.
Right.
A lot of the medication specifically will even say take with distilled water or purified water, which is exactly what reverse osmosis is. So, we're changing lives every single day in a good way, and that was just one of those stories that I definitely felt we needed to mention, that just because you've got something in place, it may be old, outdated. There may be other things in your water that really weren't even identified when whatever you had was put in.
Right.
The PFAS, for example, like I said, they first started realizing there was a problem in 2001. That's only 22 years ago. There's a lot of houses that were built in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And they who knows what may be in that water. But yeah, that was my sidebar story there. Yeah. The reverse osmosis and certain carbons are effective at fixing or reducing. You can't legally say remove, because remove implies it's 100%.
Right.
So when we have to significantly reduce a contaminant like PFAS, we do have some special things that we can put in. We've actually got a few PFAS specific projects that we've done. Trying to think if there was any. There weren't any confidentiality clauses, but they were in Henrico County. I can definitely say that. And what they did is they went out and they randomly test a lot of wells that were in they call it the White Oak Swamp area, and they came back with measurable PFAS contamination. And back in let's see, what was so the current. The EPA gets involved with things that they feel could be harmful to us or to the environment, right? So there's maximum contaminant levels. We call them MCLs for short. But everybody's probably wondering, well, there's got to be some regulation on this. And the MCL that has been in place and is actually currently still in place says that you really should be below 70 parts per trillion of PFAS to total, basically total containment, the water that it's in. That's a crazy number. When you hear trillion, it's hard to visualize that.
Right. Yeah. It's such a massive scale.
Yeah. If you had $1 trillion, you couldn't even imagine how big that would be if it was all in $1 bills.
How many zeros?
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. $1 billion is so many zeros they have
That's
to
a lot of
abbreviate
zeros
it on the billboard. But $1 trillion is 1,000 more than that. So I love visualizing things. So the current MCL, maximum contaminant level for PFAS, is 70 parts per trillion. So to try to give you an idea of what that is in terms of like scope, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, everybody's seen those at least on TV. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
If you could imagine that entire pool full of sand, 70 grains of sand would be about the equivalent of 70 parts per trillion.
Gotcha.
So out of a whole pool, 70, basically like a couple of pinches.
Right, I was about to say 70
like one
grains.
good pinch.
70 grains isn't a lot. That's like maybe lining the bottom of a cup. Maybe.
Oh, yeah. I bet I could probably pinch 30 or 40. So I was thinking maybe like 2 pinches.
Yeah.
It's about the size of salt. So if anybody really wants to test this one out, go see how many pinches of salt it takes to have 70 little grains. But yeah, that's one of those things. It's such a small number, and that's the current regulation.
Right.
There's been some obvious talk about making sure that number is accurate, and we'll talk a little bit more about that after the break here. But basically, yeah, 70 parts per trillion. The other way that they said that it's like going, what was it, 35 feet? 35 feet on a trip to the sun, which is a 93 million mile trip. So, yeah,
Jeez.
35 feet. So it's a very tiny number. And that number they're finding is way too much in a lot of cases based on the research.
Right.
So we'll talk more about that after the break here. Don't go away. We've got a lot more of the Water Guy coming up here, 877-60-WATER or ConnecticutRichmond.com if you want to check us out during the commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Water Guy Show. This is Paul with Connecticut Advanced Water Systems, and we've got
Ethan Bodsford,
Ethan.
the audio engineer. I threw my last name in this time.
Yeah, you tricked me there. Yeah, so it's the two of us are in the studio talking today about PFAS, and that is it's a terrifying thing. It's kind of one of those things I always ask if you know anything about it, and Ethan told me at the beginning.
I did not know a thing about it, actually.
Never even heard of it, right?
It's my first time hearing that acronym.
Yeah, we love acronyms.
Oh, yeah.
But before the break, and thank you for those of you tuning back in here. Before the break, we were talking about the PFAS. Pretty much, what is it? It's it's poly and perfluoroalkyl substances, and there's over 5,000, roughly about 5,000 members in this chemical family, and due to the large amount of them, and the trickiness of detection, it's been really hard to be able to have anybody like the EPA try to find out what's a safe limit for this, because the EPA gets involved and comes up with their maximum contaminant levels, and so far the agreed on max that everybody is enforcing is 70 parts per trillion, and we were talking about that's That's a crazy small number. It's 70 grains of sand in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, or the first 35 feet of a trip to the sun. So it's a really tiny number, and what they're finding is that number is probably way too high. So what they're pushing is to really to completely eliminate it. If you can detect it, it's too much. So that's terrifying, because we don't have really any other contaminant that I can think of that's out there that's measured in parts per trillion. That's so prevalent. I mean, we've got this stuff everywhere. So PFAS is used in almost everything that we use.
So about to say, like, what what kind of things does PFAS come from? Because when you've mentioned in the other segment the forever chemical, I'm thinking like styrofoam or some types of plastic, just things that don't degrade, like you mentioned.
So PFAS, there's a whole, you can find it in consumer products, you can find it in drinking water, in food, living things, workplaces. It's literally everywhere. Like consumer products, just to give you a good generalization, stain and water resistant fabrics have PFAS in them. Nonstick cookware, cleaning products, and carpets. So nonstick cookware, I bet you every single person listening to this has some sort of nonstick cookware in their home.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so I got to be completely, all the nonstick cookware that has been made in the United States since 2013 has not been using the PFAS stuff.
Okay.
But they've started using other things because it's still nonstick. So, like I said, there's 5,000 different members of this family. It's so easy for them to create another one that does something really close to the first one. But because it's a whole new species, then technically, you don't have any data on that. So it's not something that's on the radar just yet. But
just resets the clock pretty much.
It just resets the clock. It's the, like we were talking about that show, The Devil We Know. And then I think there was another one out there, the New Devil or something like that, because basically they got away from PFAS and now they're into Gen X and these other, basically it's the same doggone thing. It's just a different name.
Right.
But so 2013, if you have nonstick cookware in your home that's older than 2013, you probably want to toss that stuff. If you have nonstick cookware that is newer than 2013, but it was made overseas, all bets are off, because like we were saying before, the U.S. hasn't produced any, but a lot of other countries are still producing it and importing it into the United States.
Right.
So, yeah, it's cleaning products, carpets. Stacy in the office she was telling me today. Of course, I had no idea, but the waterproof makeup that some high end brands apparently, some of the reasons why it is so water repellent is because of the PFAS, these hydrophobic type chemicals. But yeah, consumer products, it's crazy. You can find this in like wax paper, pretty much anything that doesn't stick. Fast food wrappers, for example.
Gotcha.
It'll make you think twice next time you get a taco through the drive-through and you're looking at the wrapper going, how does it keep all the juice in there?
So like a lot of hydrophobic materials?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's kind of the brains behind how hydrophobic stuff works. Which now you're understanding. I saw the light bulb go on in Ethan's head just now.
Mm-hmm.
He's now going, oh my gosh, this stuff is everywhere.
Yeah.
Because, you've got hydrophobic car chemicals. Anytime you wash your car, they put things on there to make the water roll off.
Like waxes and ceramic coatings,
Exactly.
things like that. Yep.
Exactly. And the scary thing is you wash your car, you don't collect all the water. You don't 100% filter all that water again. It goes down into the wastewater, or worse, into the drainage ditches.
Yep.
A lot of people wash their cars at home, and you can still buy these chemicals out there. So all the runoff, all the wastewater, it goes into the environment, and that is the next thing. Like, we start talking about the contamination in drinking water. Most of the drinking water stuff is found around factories or military bases. Like, military bases use firefighting foam during a lot of exercises and things like that, and that's one of the really big contaminators. There's a lot of sites all over the United States. Let's see. So, according to the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, they said that as of August 2023, which was just a month and a half ago, the latest data shows that we have, in 50 states and the District of Columbia and 2 territories, there are 3,186 locations that are known to be contaminated. So, thousands of areas.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. You can go to ewg.org and pull up some of this stuff on your own, and they've actually got maps out there that will show where the testing is so far in the U.S. And to be honest with you, Virginia is pretty clean so far because I don't think they've put a lot of testing into it. But I know for a fact that locally, we've got a whole bunch of PFAS here because we've been contracted to actually come in and do projects in Henrico County, for example. There's certain areas that definitely tested positive, and they were over the 70 part per trillion number. Kind of scary, but we're out there trying to help folks. If you think you may have PFAS contamination, well, chances are you probably already do.
I was about to say you probably do.
Yeah, it was. Let's see here. What was the 1 in every 100 water systems in the country tested above that PFAS limit at least once. So that's not a horrible number, but they're talking about how you got 45% of the nation's tap water is estimated to have one or more types now, and that's by the U.S. Geological Survey, so another government organization, not just some made-up thing. But the USGS, actually, I said earlier that there's about 5,000 members in this family of PFAS. They actually said there's more than 12,000.
Jeez.
Not all of which can be detected. So,
oh, jeez.
yeah, they're pretty much focusing in on 32 of them. So you got 12,000 and you're focusing in on 32. So this is big. This is one of those things everybody needs to be proactive with their health. Mm-hmm. Told the story before the break about one of our customers that's definitely reinvesting in their own health. A little too late to completely eliminate certain health problems, but better late than never. My gosh. It's not an easy thing to test for PFAS. Like I just said, a lot of them you can't even identify them. There's no good testing methods, and the methods that are out there, it's like $600 to get a PFAS test, and that's our cost because we do it in bulk. But at that point, the smart alternative is to go ahead and instead of rolling the dice and say, "Oh, I don't have PFAS today," you want to get something in place that will protect you from PFAS, because if you don't have it today, that doesn't mean you're not going to have it tomorrow.
Right.
We got I could pull out plenty of stories of folks that, they were drinking that water for 18 years with no problems and then became sick because something intruded into that water supply. There's always stuff going on. You've got industrial pollution. You've got wells going in every single day. We deal with a lot of well companies here. And these guys are so busy. If they'll even take on new projects, you're looking at 3 weeks minimum. Some of them are months out.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you've got some smaller companies that have a 1 truck setup, but then you've got other companies with 7 trucks, and they're still booked out a month. So wells are going in every day, and basically a well is you drill a hole into the earth and you punch into the aquifer and you pump some stuff in there and try to sanitize it and draw water back out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other people on that aquifer. It's not like you're just sucking like a mosquito. It's not like you're just going to pull out and not put anything back in. Well, mosquito's actually a terrible example because that's exactly what they do. They bite you, they take what they want, and then they put a little bit of something nasty back inside you, and you get malaria. So, in a way, a mosquito is a great analogy to a well.
Mosquito backwash.
Yes, it's mosquito backwash. Yeah, so, so all the wells, and that every time you do that, you can change the underground direction of how the water flows a little bit, because if you're pulling, different directions, the water's going to flow different directions.
Right.
Water is so crazy. I mean, my gosh, right now they're dealing with the salinization of Louisiana. Have you heard about that?
I have not.
Yeah, that's because I believe they were really low on rainfall, and the Gulf of Mexico, which is down in that area, is obviously saltwater. So it's the ocean, the Gulf, technically. And what's happening is where the rivers push the fresh water out into the ocean, the rivers have diminished so much that the ocean is actually pushed back up into the rivers, to the point where a lot of these cities that rely on the river water to make drinking water, now they're dealing with salt water. That's a whole separate issue and probably a whole nother episode. But yeah, you start getting some, you start messing with the water supply and weird things can happen, even though they've been fine for decades. And some, like Louisiana, they've never had to deal with this before, but they are now. But I almost lost track. We just went down so many rabbit holes. Now I forgot where I was going with all that. We're talking about the drinking water.
Right.
So, yeah, so your drinking water could be impacted by factories, military bases. They do use massive amounts of PFAS. There could be other things, pollution, things like that, illegal dumping. It does happen, unfortunately. We kind of hinted a little earlier about food. Now, food can contain PFAS because, like we said, PFAS is known as the forever chemical because it doesn't break down. So if you contaminate the ground and the plants grow and they've got PFAS on them, and the animals that eat the plants, we end up eating them. We end up eating PFAS because this stuff is so tough to make go away. But yeah, so it's one of those things, the gift that keeps on giving, unfortunately. But the PFAS can be in the wrapping of the food. It could be in the actual living food itself. It can accumulate in fish, animals, and even humans when they're exposed to the chemicals. If the soil was contaminated with it, like I said, the plants can actually, not just irrigating them with PFAS water, but they can actually pull the stuff up like a nutrient out of the ground. So, yeah, once it's out there, it's pretty much out there.
Right.
Kind of scary.
Yeah.
And then workplaces was another pretty common place to be exposed to it. There's certain industries that have used PFAS to make plastics, chemicals, and other items. Firefighting foam is one of the biggest problems that everybody can think of because, you're out there putting out fires and forest fires and house fires, and you're using water and foam, and this stuff ends up basically it doesn't disintegrate. It sits there and it just waits until it gets rained and irrigated and washed into the ditch, and then that goes into the creek, into the river, into wherever it may go. I came down from I lived outside Chicago in back up until 2010, and it was interesting because Chicago and Milwaukee and pretty much all those big cities, and actually most of the state, got most of their drinking water out of Lake Michigan.
Right.
And Lake Michigan, we always used to think this is the greatest water in the world. It's a lake. It's not contaminated. Well, there's plenty of military bases, and there's plenty of automobile manufacturing.
Oh, especially up there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that lake there is actually one of the hot spots of PFAS contamination. There was a military base that I can't remember which one specifically, and if I did, I probably couldn't tell you because of the confidentiality stuff, but they used an awful lot of firefighting foam on training exercises, and it ended up going right into Lake Michigan. Yeah.
Jeez.
So it's one of those things. You may think you've got like perfect, flawless water, but maybe not.
There's always something.
There's always something. You want to be proactive. Give us a call over at the office. We have our whole team here in Richmond. 877-60-WATER. We can set you up for a virtual appointment. We can send somebody on out. We can assess what's going on in your particular house and what budget needs we might be able to put together. Everybody deserves perfect water, and we like to think that we've got options to fit any budget. But the first step is you got to give us a call. You got to let us know. 877-60-WATER, or you can visit us at any time on the web at ConnecticutRichmond.com. We look forward to helping you, and don't go away because we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Water Guy Show. This is Paul, and we've got
Ethan
over here in the studio, and we are talking today about PFAS. It's a terrifying thing that's out there pretty much everywhere, and we're in our last segment here of episode 8. If you've missed any of the prior episodes, you can find them on our podcast. It's The Water Guy. Should be able to find that, and if you can't, you can always reach out to us. We're going to try to put links on our website, ConnecticutRichmond.com, or you can always call us and get some more information. We can literally send whatever you're curious about directly to you. You can call us at 877-60-WATER. We've got the teams in the office Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 5:30, and we look forward to helping you with your residential, commercial, industrial, whatever you might have water needs, as well as drinking water. Today's topic, PFAS, like I said before, is all about health. It's a terrifying thing that's out there, and it's in almost everything. It's known as the forever chemical, and it is in things just as innocuous as camping tents, certain types of dental floss.
I was about to say that, yeah, when you mentioned that, dental floss, that's, how ironic is that?
It's terrible. It's it makes me just a little freaked out about putting just anything inside my body that I don't exactly know what all the details are. But
absolutely.
Everybody's familiar with the nonstick pans and utensils.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody likes cleaning. I mean, I love cast iron stuff, but
oh yeah,
whenever I cook an egg in there, I just hate life because you got to use like a metal scraper to be able to get that stuff back out. It just
iron wool or something.
Yeah, steel wool, exactly. Iron wool, copper wool, whatever that stuff is. Cosmetics, we talked about some of the waterproof makeup that's out there.
The mascara and stuff.
Yep, that stuff that if it makes water go away, it probably has PFAS and other nasty things in it.
Yep.
Pizza boxes. Think about that.
Seriously?
Yep.
Aren't those just cardboard?
Cardboard with a coating to keep it from soaking through as quickly.
Oh, okay. Yep. All right, that makes sense.
Yep. Popcorn bags. The microwave popcorn.
Yeah. All right.
Sandwich wrappers. Shoes and other leather products. I know that's just crazy, but I'm wearing a pair of my work boots here, and they're waterproof. And we don't think about that. We don't. You just go, oh, waterproof. If I step in a puddle, I don't want water getting in my foot. But they're waterproof because we've got hydrophobic chemicals like PFAS that
Mhm.
are treating them, which is actually the same kind of thing. Stain treatments for furniture and carpet. I don't want to say any brands, but we all kind of know what I'm talking about. The spray, the you know, the stuff that fights stains that you put on your furniture so that you can sit on it and take a nap on it.
This is a very loud man that used to make commercials about it.
Yes. Yeah. So basically that stuff, think twice before you go spraying your furniture because, I like to sit on the furniture and actually use it. So here you are sitting on contaminated furniture.
Yeah, of course.
And carpet, a lot of the stain-proof carpeting, it's stain-proof because it's been heavily treated with hydrophobic materials.
Mm-hmm.
And then water and stain-resistant clothing, kind of like the boots, but there's also jackets and other things that are available. So one of the big questions that we get a lot, does Teflon contain PFAS? Because Teflon's the one everybody knows. That's the big, it's like Kleenex. Teflon is actually a registered trademark and brand name of DuPont. It is sometimes associated with worries about PFAS, but it's not a significant source of PFAS exposure according to the American Cancer Society. It's interesting. Teflon's chemical name is polytetrafluoroethylene, or PTFE. It is not PFAS. They've switched it over. So that happened back in 2013. We covered that before the break. So if you've got older Teflon, that's a whole different story.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, you pretty much, you just want to think twice before you definitely want to wash something. You don't want to pick up something that's a brand new piece of cookware and immediately cook on it without thoroughly washing that thing a few times and at least trying to get the residue off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty interesting that they've kind of changed over to the PTFE. We talked about carpet, and it's kind of scary. A lot of people don't think very heavily about the contamination in the carpet because you walk on it. But children, this is one of those things that we need to at least mention the fact that certain adults and children may have higher exposure to PFAS than the rest of us. In terms of, first the adults. If you're an industrial worker that's involved in making or processing PFAS or PFAS-containing materials, or people who live or recreate near a PFAS-producing facility, obviously you will have greater exposure to PFAS. If you're pregnant and lactating, you would tend to drink more water per pound of body weight than the average person, and as a result, they have found that you have higher PFAS exposure if it was coming from the drinking water, obviously.
Right.
But the children part, that's the scary thing, because anybody that's got children or knows anybody with children, please mention to them that PFAS is something that is still developing. Anywhere from 5,000 to 12,000 members in the family, in the chemical family, and most of them cannot even be tested and identified.
And you said they're only 30 or something are being heavily researched right now.
Yep. Yeah. There's only 34, I think, that they use just for targeted research because they've kind of dialed in the testing methods. The testing methods are ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
I did a test a couple years ago when they first came out, and it said, don't use Teflon. Don't wear a Tyvek suit because that'll possibly make the test, go off.
Set it off.
That's when we were realizing, oh my gosh, it literally is everywhere.
Wow.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But the children, since children are still developing, they may be more sensitive to the harmful effects of PFAS. Mainly because children drink more water, they eat more food, and they breathe more air per pound of body weight.
I mean, we think about it. Kids, they also just put stuff in their mouth sometimes.
Yep.
It's just a thing they do.
That's exactly right. The fact that by body weight, they eat and drink more than us, means that their concentration is going to be higher.
Right.
But yes, the very next thing that I was going to say is young children crawl on floors and put things in their mouths, which leads to a higher risk of exposure to PFAS in carpets, household dust, toys, and cleaning products. Because the cleaning products, a lot of those are used on the floor, and you're fanatical about making sure your kid doesn't put anything in his mouth for only so long, and then the big joke is, by the time the second child comes around, you're not really worried about anything anymore.
Hands up in the air.
Yes, that's it. You just gave up. But yeah, that's something I had to at least mention about children. If you have children, you owe it to yourself to at least check out this stuff, because Ethan, you told me you never even heard of PFAS until we started shooting this episode here.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just terrifying. So if I can get the word out there that there is something that that could be all around us, that you can take steps to protect yourself. And really, a lot of folks are buying bottled water, and we don't even really know why we buy bottled water anymore. I remember growing up in the 80s, and when bottled water first kind of came out, we were like, who in the heck who would buy a bottle of water? Because, it's everywhere. And then it started to take hold, and now you wouldn't even think about drinking. Most people wouldn't even think about drinking out of the tap. But we drink bottled water because we know deep in our mind that there's probably something unknown in the tap water that we just don't want to take a chance. It's probably not for taste, because bottled water, really, the taste isn't too much different than what comes out of the tap once you get over being zapped by the chlorine levels that are in it, or whatever else.
I don't know about that, because that hose water in the backyard, man, that tastes different. It just hits different for some reason.
In a good way or a bad way?
Good way. Like after you're outside for a while and you take the hose and just twist the valve, it's something about it.
I completely relate. Yeah, I show my age now, but I remember in the late 70s and early 80s doing. Grew up in Iowa, of all places. There wasn't a lot to do there except for grow hay. So hay and corn, but we had hay fields because my parents had horses, and we would hay baling season was, of course, when it was ridiculously hot.
Right.
And you were just covered in sweat. You're covered in just dry dust from the hay, and you'd get done and run the hose until it ran cold, and it was the best thing you've ever had. But those were simpler times, weren't they?
Absolutely.
But anyway, the PFAS that's out there, you can take PFAS out on a whole home level, which we've actually done quite a few, where it's a special carbon tanks. They're actually called lead lag tanks, where water comes in, goes through a filter first to catch any particles and sediment and things like that, so it doesn't clog up the carbon units. But basically, the water comes in and it goes through one tank, and that one tank does all the work. It goes down through this special carbon, and as it's going down through there, the carbon actually adsorbs the PFAS, as well as pretty much everything else. Different grades of carbon can be very aggressive in terms of grabbing a hold of things. And after the first tank, the job is done, but we put a second tank, because stuff like PFAS, you don't want to play around with. You don't want to find out that the first tank was actually, you overran it and something made it past it. So there's a tank right after it, and then the water goes through that one. And if there's anything left that didn't get zapped by the first one, it'll get zapped by the second one. So we call that a lead lag system, and we've got those for residential houses if somebody's got concerns. And our North Carolina offices are very, very busy with installing those. They do, probably 3 to 5 homes a day down there for PFAS remediation. But if you're interested in just taking it out for the entire house, there's options for that. If you're interested in making sure that your drinking water, which is really, that's the biggest concern. There's still studies being done to see what the impact of the PFAS is in terms of being able to absorb it through your skin. But for the most part, we're pretty certain that the problem exists when you ingest it. So if you take it out of your drinking water, so far that seems to be the best approach.
Right.
So we have reverse osmosis systems that are actually certified for PFAS reduction. And that's the safest way to go, because not only is it going to take care of PFAS, but it's going to take care of pathogens. It's going to take care of viruses, bacteria, parasites, certain arsenics. There's a whole list of just things out there that you don't want to intentionally put inside your body.
Yeah.
So, and the other cool thing about our system is that it can be hooked up to the refrigerator. So you don't need to have a refrigerator filter anymore, which saves you anywhere from $100 to $200 a year, depending on the manufacturer. You take that money and you put it back towards water that's actually far better than what you would have gotten out of that fridge filter. So invest in a system, and it will definitely pay you back. It's one of those things that everybody that comes and joins our team, they really didn't understand the level of trust that we put in our drinking water until we have one at our own house. And once you've got it, you literally can't live without it. I like to pick on one of my guys who's building a house now, and he's kind of staying in a temporary spot, and he no longer has his drinking water system. So he comes to the office and refills these jugs. He's not going to get new jugs because those can have all sorts of microplastics and other junk in them, but he keeps bringing the same jugs back because there's no way he's going to let his family drink tap water. But we can help out, and we can usually hit almost any budget. We've got financing options. We've got rental options. Just give us a call, 877-60-WATER. That's 609-2837 if it's easier to do it that way. Or you can visit us on the web whenever it's convenient for you at ConnecticutRichmond.com. If you're just looking for some information, our website has a whole bunch of stuff out there for not just PFAS, but a bunch of different things. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to actually hear any suggestions or questions or things you'd like to hear about on future episodes of The Water Guy. This week we are releasing the podcasts finally. There's a little hiccup in getting those things 100% done, but we're on episode 8 right now, and you can hear the first 7 of them pretty soon over on the podcasting. The first 3 or 4, I think, are already live and ready to go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what platform can they go find the?
I knew you were going to ask that. That is Spotify.
Oh wow. Okay. Awesome.
It's on. Yeah. I am challenged sometimes on this, but the way the podcasting works is it goes to some like distribution thing that we pay for, and that little whatever it is sends it out through the RSS feed to bunches of other places. So
gotcha.
Where can you find us? I believe the answer is anywhere.
Any podcast platform? Any
podcast platform. And if you can't find it on there, we are going to be actually putting links on our website for not only the podcast, but for the YouTube channel.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we got some cool YouTube videos out there that talk about, obviously you don't want PFAS in your water, but a lot of things like you can have much better tea and coffee. We've got a great video that shows tea, the difference in tea that's made with the purified water versus just standard tap water. So it's an eye-opening thing. It's really kind of fun. You can do it yourself at home if you think there was any trickery going on, which there was not. Never. No.
Always honest here.
We pride ourselves in being honest, and that's why we keep growing year over year here.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's pretty much PFAS is one of those things that I think we've established that it's everywhere. You don't want it, and we can help you to make sure that hopefully you can limit your exposure to it, at least from your drinking water, or your bathing water if you want to pursue a whole house option. But just give us a call at 877-60-WATER, and we would love to hear from you Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 5:30. And thank you for sticking with the whole show here, and tune in next week for more of The Water Guy. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Connecticut Water Guy Hour. Join us next week for another edition with Paul, your Connecticut Water Guy. Opinions expressed on the program may not necessarily reflect the views of station management and ownership. Portions